Isaiah Coleman steps into Apex Innovations' shimmering Seattle lobby, his polished shoes clicking, briefcase heavy with a $500 million contract. Claire, the receptionist, smirks, mistaking him for a janitor, and snaps, "Deliveries out back." Isaiah, unfazed, declares he's Horizon Tech's CEO. Her jaw drops as he cancels the deal on his phone, tanking Apex's stock. Claire's fired instantly, but as Isaiah leaves, his phone buzzes. "You'll pay." What war has he unleashed? Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from. If you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe for more gripping stories. Isaiah Coleman's cancellation of the $500 million contract sends shockwaves through Seattle's tech scene. His bold move plastered across every social media feed, trending under hashtags like Justice for Isaiah and Apex Exposed, with clips of Claire's stunned face looping endlessly, earning him cheers from activists and small business owners who see him as a hero standing up to corporate arrogance. But in the towering glass fortress of Apex Innovations, Warren Drexler, the steely-eyed CEO with a reputation for crushing rivals, paces his penthouse office, his jaw clenched, his tailored suit barely containing his fury as he watches the stock ticker plummet 12 points in hours, each dip a personal insult, and he slams his fist on the mahogany desk, vowing to bury Isaiah, not just for the money, but for daring to challenge his empire in a city he believes he owns. So he summons his PR team, a slick group of spin doctors who've turned scandals into sympathy before, and they craft a vicious counterattack, leaking doctored security footage to every major news outlet, showing Isaiah in the lobby, but edited, to make him look unhinged, shouting threats and shoving papers, painting him as a volatile scammer who faked his credentials to extort Apex. And by morning, cable news anchors parrot the narrative, their somber tones warning viewers about the dangerous entrepreneur, while online trolls, paid by Warren's shadow network, flood Isaiah's profiles with slurs and death threats, calling him a fraud who got what he deserved. And outside Horizon Tech's modest headquarters, a crowd gathers, not supporters, but angry protesters, their signs accusing Isaiah of betrayal, their chants fueled by Warren's hired agitators who slip through the throng, whispering lies about stolen jobs and ruined investments. And Isaiah, holed up in his corner office, the walls lined with awards and patents, feels the weight of the city turning against him, his phone buzzing with panicked texts from employees. But he refuses to crumble, his mind racing as he pulls up Apex's public records, digging through years of hiring data, his fingers flying across the keyboard, uncovering a pattern of systemic bias, zero black executives, token diversity hires, fired within months, and he decides to fight back. Scheduling a press conference in a downtown hotel, its ballroom packed with reporters, cameras flashing like a storm, and Isaiah steps to the podium, his voice steady, his dark eyes burning with resolve, laying out Apex's discriminatory practices, slide after slide of damning statistics, his words cutting through the room, live-streamed to millions, and the crowd murmurs, some nodding, others scribbling furiously as he calls for accountability, not just for Claire's bigotry, but for a company that profits off exclusion. And for a moment, the tide shifts. Social media lights up with support, hashtags flipping to Apex Unmasked, and even skeptical reporters start questioning Warren's narrative. But Isaiah, wiping sweat from his brow as he leaves the stage, doesn't see the danger lurking, because Warren, watching the live stream from his private jet, his knuckles white around a glass of bourbon, isn't done. His mind already 3 steps ahead, and he greenlights a plan whispered in boardrooms, one that strikes at Horizon's heart, as his tech mercenaries, a shadowy crew of coders in a nondescript warehouse, breach Horizon's servers, their screens glowing with lines of malicious code, and within hours, sensitive client data, contracts, financials, even employee records, spills onto the dark web, each file tagged with Isaiah's digital signature, making it look like he orchestrated the leak to sabotage competitors. And by dawn, regulators swarm Horizon's office, their badges glinting under fluorescent lights, demanding access to everything, while investors, spooked by the breach, pull funding, their emails cold and final, and Isaiah, standing amid the chaos, his team scrambling to contain the damage, hears a news alert on the office TV, a smug anchor reporting that Horizon faces federal charges for cybercrimes, with Isaiah named as the mastermind, and his heart sinks, not just for himself, but for his employees, his vision, his promise to build a company where talent trumps skin color. And as he stares out the window at the protesters, now chanting for his arrest, he grips his phone, the same one that buzzed with Warren's threat, and realizes this is no longer just a business feud. It's a war. One where Warren holds the city's strings, and Isaiah's empire, built on years of sleepless nights and audacious dreams, teeters on the edge, with regulators circling, investors fleeing, and a city that once cheered him now ready to tear him down. And yet, in the pit of his stomach, a fire burns, a refusal to let Warren win, a vow to expose the truth no matter the cost. Even as the world closes in around him, Isaiah Coleman sits in his dimly lit office at Horizon Tech, the glow of his monitor casting shadows across his weary face, the weight of Warren Drexler's server hack and the circling regulators pressing down like a vice. But he clings to a flicker of hope, turning to Marcus Reed, his trusted COO, a man who's been with him since the company's scrappy startup days, their late-night coding sessions fueled by cheap coffee and big dreams. And Isaiah confides in Marcus, laying out a plan to stabilize Horizon by securing a new investor, his voice steady despite the chaos, believing Marcus's sharp mind and loyalty will pull them through. But Marcus, with his easy smile and quick nods, hides a secret, his bank account swollen with a 7-figure deposit from Warren, a bribe to dismantle Horizon from the inside. And while Isaiah pores over financial projections, Marcus slips into a quiet corner, emailing doctored spreadsheets to a shady financial blog, the numbers twisted to show Horizon bleeding cash, insolvent, a house of cards ready to collapse. And by morning, the blog's post goes viral, screaming headlines about Horizon's ruin, and the stock market reacts like a startled flock. Horizon's shares tanking 30% before lunch, investors flooding Isaiah's inbox with furious demands, their trust in him shattered, and he senses something's off. The numbers don't add up, so he digs into the server logs, his pulse quickening as he traces the leak to Marcus's login, the betrayal hitting like a punch to the gut. And he calls an emergency board meeting, the conference room tense, the air thick with suspicion, as Isaiah confronts Marcus, his voice low but sharp, laying out the evidence, the logs, the email trail, and Marcus stammers, his charm crumbling, his eyes darting to the exit, and before anyone can stop him, he bolts, shoving past a stunned board member, his loafers slipping on the polished floor. And Isaiah, fueled by rage and disbelief, chases him, the Seattle rain pelting his face as they weave through crowded sidewalks, neon signs blurring in the downpour. Marcus dodging into a narrow alley, his breath ragged, and Isaiah follows, his shoes splashing through puddles, his heart pounding with the sting of a friend's knife in his back. But as he corners Marcus near a dumpster, the alley dark and reeking of rot, a black SUV screeches to a halt, its doors flying open, and 4 of Warren's thugs, their faces hard, their knuckles wrapped in tape, leap out, their boots slamming the pavement, and Isaiah realizes too late it's a trap. Marcus's betrayal just the bait, and the thugs descend, their fists and boots a blur, pummeling Isaiah's ribs, his jaw, blood mixing with rainwater, and he fights back, landing a desperate punch, but they're too many, too strong, and they pin him down, one whispering, Warren says hello, before a final kick sends him sprawling, and they drag him to a shadowed corner, dumping him beside a pile of garbage, his vision swimming, his body screaming. And as the SUV peels away, Marcus long gone. A crumpled note slips from a thug's pocket, landing in the muck beside Isaiah, its words scrawled in sharp ink. Your friends are next. And Isaiah, gasping, clutches the note, the threat sinking in. Warren's reach not just corporate but personal. His empire a web strangling everyone Isaiah trusts. And he staggers to his feet, the rain washing blood from his split lip, his mind racing, knowing Marcus was only the start, that Warren's playing a longer, crueler game, one that targets his inner circle, his family, his very will to fight. And as he limps from the alley, the city's skyline looming like a judge, he wonders who else might turn, who else Warren's bought, and how deep this conspiracy runs, his resolve hardening even as pain pulses through him, because giving up means letting Warren win. And Isaiah's not built to break, not yet, not ever. But the note's warning burns in his pocket, a promise of worse to come. And he knows the next blow will cut deeper, strike harder. And as he disappears into the storm-soaked night, the question lingers, who's next in Warren's crosshairs? And can Isaiah outsmart a man who seems to own the city itself? So if you're raging at Marcus's betrayal, drop a number 1 in the comments. And if you believe Isaiah's fight for justice deserves a voice, smash that like button and subscribe to follow this battle to its end. Because what happens when the one you trusted most sells you out and a city turns its back? Isaiah Coleman, bruised and battered from the alley ambush, his ribs aching with every breath, refuses to let Marcus's betrayal or Warren Drexler's thugs break him. His resolve a fire that no rain-soaked Seattle night can douse, and he channels his fury into a bold plan, rallying the city's tech community for a convention at the sprawling Waterfront Expo Center, its glass walls reflecting the Puget Sound's restless waves, where thousands of coders, startup founders, and activists pack the main hall, their murmurs buzzing like static. And Isaiah, dressed in a sharp blazer, his split lip barely healed, steps onto the stage, the spotlight harsh against his dark skin, his voice steady as he exposes Warren's bribery, projecting leaked emails on a massive screen, each one detailing payoffs to city officials to block minority-owned businesses. The crowd gasping as he names names, dates, dollar amounts, his words slicing through the room like a blade, and the audience erupts, clapping, shouting, some standing on chairs, their phones live streaming to millions, the hashtag #ApexCorrupt trending globally. And Isaiah feels a surge of hope, the first in weeks, as regulators in the back scribble notes, their faces grim, signaling probes into Apex innovations. And for a moment, it seems he's turned the tide, the city's eyes opening to Warren's corruption. But across town, in a dimly lit penthouse, Warren watches the stream, his lips curling into a sneer, his fingers tapping a coded message to Claire Hensley, the disgraced receptionist now fueled by vengeance, her career ruined by Isaiah's contract cancellation. And she's eager to prove her loyalty, slipping into the convention's service tunnels, her backpack heavy with a device Warren's mercenaries rigged, a bomb wired to shatter Isaiah's triumph. And as Isaiah wraps his speech, shaking hands with supporters, the hall vibrating with chants of his name, a low rumble grows, not applause but something sinister, and the floor shakes. Glass, shattering screams piercing the air as the bomb detonates, flames licking the stage, smoke choking the crowd, and Isaiah, his instincts kicking in, shouts for everyone to run, guiding a dazed coder to safety, his own lungs burning, his eyes stinging, and he dives behind a collapsed booth as debris rains down, the blast's heat singeing his skin, and he crawls through the chaos, helping a trapped woman free, her arm bleeding, her face pale until he stumbles outside, the night air cold against his sweat-soaked skin, sirens wailing in the distance. But the victory he tasted minutes ago is gone, replaced by horror, and as he catches his breath, his phone lights up with a news alert, a headline screaming that Isaiah Coleman, the so-called hero, is suspected of planting the bomb, a terrorist hiding behind a CEO's title. And he realizes Warren's plan, the media, bought by Apex's deep pockets, spinning the narrative, their anchors parroting lies about Isaiah's motives, claiming he staged the attack to smear Apex, and the crowd that cheered him now scatters, some glaring, others whispering, their trust poisoned. And Claire, watching from a rooftop, her binoculars glinting, texts Warren, "It's done," her heart racing with vindictive glee, while Warren, sipping champagne on his jet, smirks, his voice calm as he orders his team to amplify the story, flooding social media with doctored images of Isaiah near the bomb site, and Isaiah, his blazer torn, his hands trembling, slips into an alley. The same rain from the night of Marcus's betrayal falling again, each drop a reminder of his shrinking world, and he ducks into a boarded-up storefront, its windows cracked, its shelves empty, a makeshift hideout where he can think, his mind racing through the wreckage of his plan, the convention meant to expose Warren now a trap that's branded him a fugitive. And he checks his phone, the battery low, seeing texts from his team, some loyal, others doubting, and a voicemail from his sister Kayla, her voice shaky, saying she's been evicted from her apartment, no reason given. And Isaiah's chest tightens, knowing Warren's reach is tightening around his family, his life, his legacy, and he pockets the phone, his fingers brushing the crumpled note from the alley. Your friends are next. And he wonders if Kayla's eviction is the start, if Warren's already moving against those he loves, and the weight of it all, the betrayal, the blast, the lies, threatens to crush him. But he clenches, his fists, his nails digging into his palms, and vows to fight, to find a way to clear his name, to save his sister, to bring Warren down, even as the city hunts him, its lights flickering through the rain like eyes watching his every move. And he knows the next blow will be worse. Warren's empire unrelenting, Claire's hatred a sharpened blade, and as he huddles in the dark, the sound of police choppers overhead, their blades slicing the night, he braces for a war he didn't choose but can't escape, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and defiance, ready to face whatever comes next, no matter how brutal. Isaiah Coleman crouches in the shadows of the boarded-up storefront, his breath shallow, the distant wail of police choppers a constant reminder of his new life as a fugitive, the convention bombing's aftermath branding him a terrorist in Seattle's eyes, his name slandered across every screen, and Kayla's eviction voicemail loops in his mind, her voice trembling, a sign Warren Drexler's noose is tightening, but Isaiah's spirit, though battered, refuses to snap, his fingers tracing the crumpled note from the alley. Your friends are next, fueling his resolve to fight, and a faint Wi-Fi signal flickering on his phone leads him to a hidden chat room, where a hacker collective, led by Zoe Turner, a fierce black activist with a reputation for exposing corporate greed, offers him sanctuary. And he navigates Seattle's underbelly, slipping through graffiti-streaked tunnels to a basement lair pulsing with the hum of servers, their screens casting blue light on Zoe's sharp features as she greets him, her dreadlocks tied back, her eyes scanning him for weakness, but finding none. And she hands him a burner phone, her voice low, explaining their mission to dismantle Apex's empire, and together, they dive into encrypted files, their keyboards clacking in sync, uncovering Warren's latest scheme, a plan to bribe city officials with millions to seize Horizon Tech's assets, patents and servers under eminent domain, a legal theft masked as urban renewal, and Isaiah's blood boils, picturing his company, his life's work, reduced to rubble for Warren's profit. But Zoe's team, a mix of coders and ex-corporate whistleblowers, maps out a counterstrike, planning to leak the bribe details to federal watchdogs. And Isaiah feels a spark of hope, his first since the convention's cheers, believing this alliance could shift the war. But Warren in his fortified estate, his walls lined with hunting trophies, anticipates resistance, his spies embedded in Seattle's tech scene, and he escalates his attack, orchestrating the kidnapping of Kayla, Isaiah's 22-year-old sister, snatching her from her evicted apartment in a swift, brutal raid. Her screams muffled as masked men drag her to a derelict warehouse, its rusted beams creaking under a stormy sky. And Warren, ever the showman, broadcasts her captivity on a dark web feed. Kayla bound to a chair, her eyes wide with terror, her voice pleading for Isaiah. The video streamed to Isaiah's burner phone, Warren's voice cutting through, cold and deliberate. Surrender, or she dies. And the feed loops on hacked billboards across Seattle, turning Kayla's fear into a public spectacle, a warning to anyone defying Apex. And Isaiah, his heart splintering, watches the video in Zoe's lair, his fists clenched, his vision blurring with rage. And Zoe grips his shoulder, urging focus, but he's already moving, plotting a rescue, using Zoe's tech to trace the broadcast to a waterfront warehouse, its docks slick with oil, guarded by Warren's mercenaries. And Isaiah slips out, the rain masking his steps, his hoodie soaked as he creeps through the warehouse's perimeter, disabling a security camera with a stolen EMP device, his breath hitching as he spots Kayla through a grimy window, her wrists raw from ropes, and he pries open a side door, the hinges groaning, his pulse a drumbeat as he navigates the maze of crates, the air thick with the stench of diesel. And he takes down a guard with a silent chokehold, his movements precise, driven by desperation. But as he reaches Kayla, cutting her ropes, her eyes flood with relief, a second squad of mercenaries bursts in, their rifles raised, their leader snarling, "You're too late." And Isaiah shoves Kayla behind a steel drum, returning fire with a scavenged pistol, bullets sparking off metal. But the guards swarm, and he realizes the rescue's a trap. Kayla's location deliberately leaked, and in the chaos, a mercenary grabs Kayla, dragging her to a waiting van, its engine roaring, and Isaiah lunges, tackling the man. But a rifle butt slams his temple, his vision blackening, and the van speeds off. Kayla's scream fading into the storm, and Isaiah, sprawled on the concrete, blood pooling under his head, hears Warren's voice crackle through a dropped radio. "You can't save them all," and he crawls to his knees. The warehouse empty, the mercenaries gone, and he stumbles outside, the rain washing his blood into the dock's oily sheen, his body screaming, his mind reeling from the loss. Kayla taken again, the trap exposing his vulnerability. And he clutches the burner phone, its screen cracked, knowing Zoe's waiting, but also knowing Warren's game is evolving, each move crueler, more personal, targeting not just his company but his blood. And the note's threat echoes, "Your friends are next," now a reality. And Isaiah, limping back to the city, his hoodie torn, his hope fraying, wonders who else Warren will strike, how many more traps lie ahead, and whether he can outwit a man who seems to anticipate his every step. But he grits his teeth, his defiance a spark in the dark, vowing to find Kayla, to expose Warren, to reclaim his life, even as the city's shadows close in, their whispers promising worse to come. Isaiah Coleman stumbles through Seattle's rain-slicked streets, his temple throbbing from the warehouse trap, Kayla's scream echoing in his skull, her kidnapping a wound that bleeds with every step, and the city's pulse, once a rhythm of opportunity, now feels like a drumbeat of betrayal. Warren Drexler's empire tightening its grip. But Isaiah clings to the cracked burner phone, its faint signal a lifeline to Zoe Turner's hacker lair. And he slips back into the basement, its air thick with the buzz of cooling fans, where Zoe, her eyes fierce, slams a laptop shut, her voice urgent, insisting they strike now before Warren moves Kayla again, and they dive into Apex's servers, their screens a blur of code. Isaiah's fingers trembling but precise, bypassing firewalls with Zoe's custom scripts, until they unearth a digital goldmine. Encrypted files detailing Warren's bribes to city council members, millions funneled through shell companies to seize Horizon's assets, each document a nail in Apex's coffin, and Isaiah's heart races, seeing a chance to turn the tide. To save his sister, his company, his name, and Zoe's team works feverishly, routing the files through anonymous servers, leaking them to the FBI and every major news outlet. And by dawn, the story breaks. Headlines screaming about Apex's corruption, Seattle's streets filling with protesters, their signs demanding justice, their chants shaking the city's core. And Warren's board, rattled by the leak, pressures him to step down, their panicked calls flooding his private line. And Isaiah, watching the protests from a grainy live stream in the lair, feels a flicker of triumph, the first since the convention's roar, believing the city's waking up, that Warren's empire is cracking. But Warren, in his oak-paneled study, his eyes cold as steel, refuses to yield. His mind a chessboard where every loss is a setup, and he activates a contingency, hiring a crew of mercenaries, their faces scarred, their loyalty bought with cash, to torch Horizon's headquarters, a gleaming 5-story building in Seattle's tech district, its glass facade a symbol of Isaiah's dreams. And as Isaiah and Zoe plan their next move, a scout bursts into the lair, breathless, reporting smoke rising from Horizon's campus, and Isaiah sprints out, his lungs burning, arriving to find flames devouring the building, orange tongues licking the sky, the air choked with ash, and he hears screams inside. His team trapped, and without hesitation, he plunges through a shattered window, the heat searing his skin, his eyes streaming, and he navigates the inferno, coughing, crawling, until he finds Priya, a young engineer, pinned under a collapsed beam, her leg bleeding, and he lifts the debris, his muscles screaming, dragging her to safety, her sobs muffled against his chest. But the fire roars louder, a wall of flame blocking the exit, and Isaiah, his vision blurring, shields Priya, guiding her through a service stairwell, the metal scalding his hands, and they burst outside, collapsing on the grass, sirens wailing. But Isaiah's relief is fleeting, his body racked by coughs, smoke clogging his lungs, and as paramedics swarm, he passes out, his world fading to black, only to wake in a hospital bed, his wrists cuffed, a detective looming, accusing him of arson. Claiming security footage shows him setting the blaze, and Isaiah's mind reels, realizing Warren's mercenaries planted the evidence, the footage doctored to frame him, and news channels, fed by Apex's PR machine, broadcast the lie, branding him a pyromaniac who burned his own company to dodge fraud charges. And the hospital TV blares Warren's press conference, his voice smooth, feigning sympathy, urging calm while painting Isaiah as a danger to Seattle. And Isaiah, his throat raw, his sister still missing, feels the walls closing in. The cuffs, biting his skin, his empire reduced to ash. His name a curse. And he knows Warren's strike was surgical. Not just destroying Horizon, but turning the city against him. And Priya's grateful nod from her hospital bed is a faint light. But Kayla's absence is a void, her fate tied to Warren's next move, and the note's threat. Your friends are next, haunts him, now joined by the fire's scars, and he overhears a nurse whisper about federal charges, the arson rap stacking atop the terrorist label, and Isaiah, his body weak, his spirit fraying, clenches his jaw, refusing to break, his mind racing for a way out. A way to find Kayla, to expose Warren's lies. But the hospital's sterile walls feel like a cage, and Warren's mercenaries, he knows, are watching, waiting, their next attack already in motion, and as he stares at the ceiling, the heart monitor beeping, he wonders how much more he can lose, how much deeper Warren's blade will cut, and whether he can rise from these ashes to fight a war that seems rigged against him. So if you're furious at Warren's ruthless frame-up, drop a number 1 in the comments. And if you believe Isaiah deserves a chance to clear his name, hit that like button and subscribe to see his fight unfold. Because when your life's work burns and your sister's life hangs in the balance, how do you strike back against an enemy who controls the truth? Isaiah Coleman lies cuffed in a hospital bed, the sterile beep of the heart monitor a cruel metronome, his lungs still raw from the smoke of Horizon Tech's burning headquarters, the arson pinned on him by Warren Drexler's doctored footage. And the weight of Kayla's kidnapping presses like a stone on his chest, her face from the warehouse trap haunting his restless dreams. But even as nurses whisper about his guilt, his spirit clings to defiance, until the hospital's quiet night shatters. A team of Warren's mercenaries, their boots silent, their eyes cold, slipping past security with forged IDs, and they yank Isaiah from the bed, the cuffs cutting deeper, a hood thrown over his head. The world reduced to muffled shouts and the stench of canvas, and they drag him to a blacked-out van, its engine growling, speeding through Seattle's outskirts to a secret facility, a concrete bunker hidden in a forested ravine, its walls damp, its air heavy with mildew, and Isaiah, stripped of his hoodie, is chained to a chair in a windowless cell, the metal biting his wrists, a single bulb swinging above casting jagged shadows, and Warren in a tailored suit, his presence like a storm cloud, steps in, his voice smooth but venomous, accusing Isaiah of terrorism, fraud, arson, each word a calculated jab, and he activates a camera, live streaming the interrogation to a dark web audience, thousands watching as he demands Isaiah confess, his face projected on a cracked monitor, the feed hacked into Seattle's public screens, turning Isaiah's suffering into a citywide spectacle. And Claire Hensley, her eyes glinting with vindictive glee, joins in, her once polished receptionist demeanor replaced by raw hatred, her nails digging into Isaiah's arm as she tightens his restraints, her voice a hiss, taunting him about Kayla's fate, claiming she's been sold to traffickers, each lie a dagger twisting in his heart, and Isaiah, his body aching, his stomach empty, feels despair creeping, the cell's walls closing in, the bulbs flicker sinking with his fading hope. And Warren leans close, his breath hot, promising to destroy everyone Isaiah loves, his sister, his team, his legacy, unless he breaks. And the live stream's comments, a flood of anonymous hate, call for his death. Their words a mirror of the city's turned back. But Isaiah, through the haze of pain, clenches his jaw, his eyes locking on a rusted nail in the floor, and he channels his rage, his love for Kayla, his vow to fight. And when Warren steps out, leaving Claire to tighten the chains, Isaiah, his fingers trembling, snatches the nail, his movements hidden by a flicker of the bulb, and he carves into the concrete wall, each scratch a rebellion, the words, "I will rise," etched deep, a promise to himself to Kayla, to the city that's forsaken him. And Claire, oblivious, laughs, her taunts growing shrill. But Isaiah's silence unnerves her, and she storms out, slamming the steel door. And hours pass, the cell a void of time. Isaiah's body screaming, his mind teetering until a guard, a young man with haunted eyes, slips in during a shift change, his uniform ill-fitting, his hands shaking, and he whispers, "You're not alone," sliding a small key into Isaiah's palm, his voice barely audible, hinting at a network of dissent within Warren's ranks, and he vanishes before Isaiah can speak, leaving him clutching the key, its edges sharp, a lifeline in the dark. And Isaiah's heart pounds, hope sparking but tempered by fear, knowing escape is only the start. That Warren's drones patrol the ravine, their cameras sweeping the forest, and Kayla's still out there, her fate a ticking clock, and the note from the alley. "Your friends are next," burns in his memory, now a reality with Horizon's ashes and Priya's narrow escape, and he tests the key, the lock clicking softly, but he hesitates, the bunker's silence oppressive, the livestream's red light still blinking, broadcasting his every move. And he knows Warren's watching, waiting, his mercenaries ready to pounce, and Claire's hatred, a wildfire, promises worse if he slips free. And Isaiah, his carved message glowing in his mind, weighs the key's promise against the traps beyond, his body weak, his spirit tested, but unbroken. And he tucks the key into his sleeve, his eyes scanning the cell, plotting his next move, knowing freedom means running into Warren's jaws. And the forest outside, alive with drones, feels like a graveyard. But Kayla's face, her voice, her trust in him pulls him forward, and he braces for the fight, the war, the storm Warren's brewing. Because giving up means losing everything. And Isaiah's not ready to let his sister, his truth, his fire die, even as the bunker's walls pulse with the threat of what's coming. A reckoning he can't yet see, but feels in his bones. Isaiah Coleman grips the key in the damp bunker, its edges biting his palm. The carved words, "I will rise," glowing in his mind like a beacon, the live stream's red light still blinking, Warren Drexler's drones humming outside, and Kayla's, fate a ticking bomb. But the guards whisper, "You're not alone," sparks a fragile hope, and he unlocks his chains, the metal clanking softly, his wrists raw, and he slips through the cell door, navigating the facility's maze of corridors, their concrete walls slick with condensation, until he finds the guard, Malik, waiting in a shadowed alcove, his eyes darting, his voice low, revealing he's an ex-Apex coder, driven by guilt over Warren's corruption. And he leads Isaiah to a maintenance shed, its floor littered with rusted tools, where they huddle, Malik's laptop, glowing as he pulls up files exposing Warren's ties to the Liberty Front, a racist lobbying group funneling millions to influence Seattle's policies, their manifesto a vile blueprint for exclusion. And Isaiah's stomach churns, seeing Warren's empire not just greedy, but hateful. And Malik, his fingers trembling, proposes stealing Warren's financial records from a secure Apex server in a downtown high-rise, a move to cripple the Liberty Front's funding. And Isaiah, his body aching from torture, agrees, knowing it's a chance to save Kayla and expose the truth, and they slip out. The forest's pine scent sharp, dodging drone cameras, their beams slicing the night, and reach a stolen pickup truck, its paint chipped, its engine coughing, and they race toward Seattle, the skyline a jagged promise. But Warren's mercenaries, alerted by a tripped sensor, pursue in sleek SUVs, their headlights blinding, and the chase erupts, Isaiah gripping the wheel, Malik hacking traffic lights to clear their path, the truck skidding through rain-soaked intersections, tires screeching, as bullets ping off the chassis, shattering the rear window, and Isaiah swerves onto a coastal road, the Puget Sound's waves crashing below, but a mercenary rams them, the truck lurching, and Malik, his face grim, uploads the hacked records to Zoe's network, his voice steady, urging Isaiah to keep driving. And as they approach a narrow bridge, the mercenaries close in, their vehicles a steel trap. And Malik, spotting a fuel tanker ahead, makes a choice, shouting for Isaiah to jump, and he leaps from the truck, firing a scavenged pistol at the tanker. The explosion a roaring fireball, engulfing the mercenaries' SUVs, the bridge trembling, And Isaiah, heart pounding, dives into the icy sound, the current pulling him under, his lungs screaming. But he surfaces, gasping, crawling onto a rocky shore, the truck a distant wreck, Malik gone, his sacrifice a searing loss, and Isaiah, shivering, checks the burner phone, its screen flickering, confirming Zoe's team received the records, now leaking to global media, exposing Warren's hate group ties. But Warren, in his fortified estate, his monitors showing the fiery bridge, doesn't flinch, his voice icy as he broadcasts Malik's death on hacked news feeds, a grainy video of the explosion looping, branding Malik a traitor and Isaiah a fugitive mastermind, the city's screens flashing warnings to report him, and Warren's message, delivered in a calm baritone, vows to destroy everyone Isaiah loves, his sister, his allies, his hope. And Isaiah, hiding in a coastal cave, its walls slick with seaweed, his clothes sodden, feels the weight of Malik's loss, the young coder's haunted eyes now a permanent ghost, and the records leak. A fleeting victory is overshadowed by Warren's broadcast, turning Seattle's fear against him, and Kayla's absence gnaws, her fate tied to Warren's next move, and the note from the alley, "Your friends are next," now carries Malik's blood, Priya's screams, and Horizon's ashes, and Isaiah, his breath ragged, his body bruised, knows Warren's empire is adapting, its claws sharper, and he clutches the phone, its battery fading, wondering if Zoe's network can amplify the leak, if the city will listen, or if Warren's lies will bury him first. And the cave's darkness mirrors his shrinking world, the tide's rhythm a countdown to the next strike, and he thinks of Malik's sacrifice, his final shout, and vows to honor it, to find Kayla, to fight. But the broadcast's echo, Warren's promise of ruin, chills his bones, and he knows the war's turning deadlier, the Liberty Front's shadow looming, and as he stumbles from the cave, the city's lights distant, he braces for Warren's next trap, his heart a drumbeat of grief and defiance, ready to face a machine that feeds on his pain, because surrender means losing Kayla, Malik's memory, and the truth he's sworn to unveil, even as the night promises a storm he can't outrun. Isaiah Coleman huddles in the coastal cave, the tide's salty spray stinging his bruised skin, Malik's sacrifice a fresh scar, the burner phone's flickering screen his only link to Zoe's hacker network, and Warren Drexler's broadcast of Malik's fiery death loops in his mind. A cruel reminder of the city's betrayal. But the leaked financial records, sent before Malik's final stand, burn with potential. And Isaiah, his fingers numb, forwards the files to Zoe, her team blasting them across global platforms, exposing Warren's payments to the Liberty Front, a racist lobbying group pushing anti-minority laws, each transaction a stain on Apex's empire, and by morning, Seattle's streets roar with protesters, their voices a thunderclap, signs waving outside Apex's glass fortress, demanding Warren's arrest, and newsrooms, once Warren's puppets, pivot, their anchors dissecting the records, the FBI announcing raids on Liberty Front offices, and Isaiah, watching the chaos unfold on a scavenged tablet, its battery fading, feels a surge of hope. The city finally seeing Warren's truth, and Zoe's message pings, urging him to lie, low in a safe house, a cramped attic above a shuttered bookstore, its walls lined with dusty novels, and he slips through Seattle's back streets, his hoodie shadowing his face, the protesters chants a distant pulse, believing the tide's turning, that Kayla might be found. But Warren, in his fortified estate, his monitors glowing with protest footage, doesn't waver, his mind a labyrinth of counterattacks, and he summons Claire Hensley, her vengeance sharpened since her firing, her eyes alight with malice, and she unveils a fabricated video, a masterpiece of digital lies, showing Isaiah at the convention, planting the bomb that shattered his rally, her editing seamless, his face clear, the timestamp forged, and Warren floods the internet with it. The video airing on every major network, billboards, even hacked public transit screens, and the narrative shifts, anchors calling Isaiah a terrorist mastermind, the protests splintering, some chanting for justice, others for his head, and public support, so briefly his, collapses. The city's heart poisoned again, and Isaiah, in the attic, watches the video on the tablet, his stomach sinking, recognizing Claire's handiwork, her hatred a blade cutting deeper than Warren's. and the safe house's radio crackles with a news alert, reporting the arrest of Isaiah's mother, Lena, a retired teacher, accused of aiding his supposed terror plot. Her face splashed across screens, her eyes wide with confusion, and Isaiah's chest tightens. His mother's pride in him now a shackle, and Zoe, patching through on a secure line, delivers worse, her voice breaking, revealing Kayla's been sold to traffickers by Warren's allies. A deal brokered to break Isaiah's will, the dark web chatter pinpointing her to a portside smuggling ring, and Isaiah, his breath ragged, slams his fist against the attic's slanted roof. The wood splintering, his family torn apart, his name a curse, and the safe house's dim bulb flickers, mirroring his fraying hope. But he refuses to break, his mind racing, plotting to rescue Kayla, to clear his mother's name, to expose Claire's lie, and he digs through Zoe's cached files, searching for proof of the video's forgery, his eyes burning. But the city's pulse outside, once a beacon, now feels like a trap. And Warren's estate, its lights blazing, hums with plans, Claire's video just the start, and the note from the alley. Your friends are next. Now carries Lena's arrest, Kayla's trafficking, Malik's death, Priya's screams, and Isaiah, alone in the attic. His tablet dead, his body aching, feels the walls of Warren's war closing in. And Lena's gentle voice, her bedtime stories of resilience, echoes in his heart, pushing him to fight. But the trafficking news is a gut punch. Kayla's life hanging by a thread, and he knows Warren's allies are moving. Their reach global, their cruelty boundless. And the safe house's creaking stairs warn of footsteps, friend or foe unknown. And Isaiah, his hand on a rusted pipe, braces for the next blow, his defiance a flicker in the dark, vowing to save his family, to honor Malik's sacrifice. But the city's screens, still flashing Claire's video, scream his guilt, and he wonders if truth can outrun lies, if he can reach Kayla before Warren's next trap springs, because surrender means losing everything, and Isaiah's not built to kneel, even as the attic's shadows whisper of a fight he might ascot. His mother's arrest, and the looming threat of Kayla's fate. So if you're gutted by Warren's lies and Claire's betrayal, drop a #1 in the comments. And if you believe Isaiah can still save his family, hit that like button and subscribe to follow his fight, because when the world brands you a monster and your loved ones are torn away, how do you prove your innocence before it's too late? Isaiah Coleman crouches in the attic safe house, the creaking stairs silent now, his heart a war drum as Claire's fabricated video loops on Seattle's screens, branding him a bomber, his mother Lena jailed, and Kayla sold to traffickers, the news a knife twisting deeper. But Zoe's encrypted message burns through the fog of despair, pinpointing Kayla to an underground fight club on the city's grimy port side, a den of blood and bets run by Warren Drexler's allies. And Isaiah, his body bruised, his spirit raw, grips a rusted pipe, slipping through the night's fog, the dock's briny stench sharp, his hoodie blending with shadows as he tracks the club's neon flicker, its entrance a steel door guarded by hulking men, their tattoos glinting under streetlights, and Zoe's hackers working remotely feed him intel through a scavenged earpiece, guiding him to a ventilation shaft, its grates loose, and he crawls through, the metal cold, the air thick with sweat and smoke, emerging in a rafter above the club's arena, where a roaring crowd bets on fighters, their fists bloody, and Isaiah spots Kayla, chained in a cage near the ring, her face pale, her eyes hollow, and his chest tightens, her suffering a mirror of his own. But he moves, dropping silently behind a crate, his pipe cracking a guard's skull, the man crumpling, and Isaiah fights through the club, his movements a blur, dodging a knife, snapping a wrist, his rage a fuel no pain can douse, and he reaches Kayla, his hands trembling as he picks the lock, her ropes falling, her arms wrapping around him, her sobs a lifeline, and Zoe's team, hacking the club's cameras, live streams the rescue. The feed hijacking Seattle's news channels, millions watching as Isaiah shields Kayla, his voice steady, exposing Warren's trafficking ring. And the city, so long against him, shifts, social media exploding with support, hashtags like Free Isaiah, trending, and Warren's investors, spooked by the broadcast, pull funding, their emails frantic, and Isaiah, carrying Kayla through the club's chaos, feels a fleeting victory. Her weight a reminder of what he's fought for. But Warren, in his estate, his monitors showing the live stream, his jaw tight, refuses to lose, his fingers typing a command to mercenaries embedded in the club. And as Isaiah nears the exit, a hiss fills the air, a gas valve rupturing, Warren's trap triggered, and the club shakes, a deafening explosion rocking the arena, flames erupting, concrete crumbling, and Isaiah dives, shielding Kayla with his body, debris slicing his back, his lungs choking on chemical fumes, and the crowd scatters, screams echoing, but the exit's blocked, a steel beam pinning the door, and Isaiah, his vision blurring, drags Kayla to a corner, her pulse weak, his hands pressing her wounds, and he kicks through a weakened wall, the plaster giving way, pulling her into an alley. The night air a shock. But the gas clings, his legs buckling, and he collapses, Kayla safe beside him, sirens wailing as paramedics swarm, and he wakes in a hospital, his back bandaged, Kayla in a nearby bed, her breathing steady. But his relief shatters when detectives cuff him, their voices hard, accusing him of rigging the explosion. A new arson charge pinned by Warren's doctored footage, showing Isaiah tampering with the club's gas lines, and the hospital TV blares. The lie, anchors calling him a reckless fugitive. The livestream's truth drowned by Warren's spin, and Isaiah, his wrists bound, his mother still jailed, feels the city's betrayal anew, the Fight Club's triumph a cruel mirage. And Warren, on a private jet, his smirk cold, watches the news, his voice calm as he orders his team to tighten the noose, and the note from the alley, "Your friends are next," now carries Lena's arrest, Kayla's scars, Malik's death, Priya's screams, and Isaiah, his body screaming, his heart heavy, knows Warren's empire is relentless, its lies a tide he can't outswim. And Kayla's hand, reaching from her bed, brushes his, a faint spark, but the cuffs bite, the detective's eyes judge, and he overhears a nurse whisper about federal warrants, the arson charge stacking atop terrorism, bombing, fraud. And he thinks of Zoe, her network still fighting, and Lena, her strength his, anchor, and he vows to rise to clear his name to save his family. But the hospital's fluorescent lights feel like a cage, and Warren's mercenaries, he knows, are circling, their next move a shadow he can't see. And the city's pulse, once his stage, now hums with his guilt. And Isaiah, his breath shallow, his resolve a flicker, braces for the war's next turn, because surrender means losing Kayla's trust, Lena's pride, and the truth he's bled for, and he's not ready to let Warren's machine grind him to dust, even as the hospital's walls whisper of a fight he might not survive. Isaiah Coleman lies in the hospital, the cuffs chafing his wrists, the new arson charge from the Fight Club explosion stacking atop Warren Drexler's lies. His mother Lena jailed, Kayla recovering beside him, her faint breath a fragile anchor. But the city's pulse outside, poisoned by Claire's fabricated video, hums with his guilt. And yet Isaiah's defiance burns, fueled by Zoe's encrypted message, her hackers pinpointing Warren's next move, a lavish gala at Apex's downtown headquarters to shore up investor confidence. And Isaiah, his back bandaged, his resolve iron, slips the cuffs with a smuggled paperclip, his hands steady despite the pain. And he sneaks from the hospital stealing a janitor's uniform, its fabric stiff, and navigates Seattle's twilight. The skylines glow a taunt, reaching Zoe's safe house, a loft cluttered with monitors, where her team equips him with a micro camera and a forged invite. Their plan to infiltrate the gala and expose Warren's crimes, and Isaiah, his heart pounding, dons a tailored tuxedo, the fabric foreign against his scars, and slips into the gala, its chandeliers sparkling, the elite sipping champagne, their laughter a stark contrast to his war, and he moves through the crowd, his face shadowed, spotting Warren on a balcony, his suit pristine, his voice charming investors, and Isaiah, his earpiece buzzing with Zoe's cues, plants the camera in a floral centerpiece, its lens trained on Warren, and he corners him in a private lounge, the walls lined with abstract art, the air heavy with cigar smoke, and Isaiah, his voice low, accuses Warren of the trafficking, the bombing, the Liberty Front, each word a spark, and Warren, his eyes narrowing, laughs, then boasts, admitting to orchestrating the Fight Club, framing Isaiah, and bribing officials, his words a venomous confession, unaware of the camera streaming to Zoe's network. And Isaiah's phone vibrates, confirming the feed's live, millions watching as Warren's mask slips. His arrogance, a noose, and the gala's screens hacked by Zoe flash the confession, the crowd gasping, investors paling, and Warren, realizing the trap, signals his guards, their suits hiding holstered guns, and they lunge, their fists swinging, one grazing Isaiah's jaw, but he fights back, ducking a punch, slamming a guard into a marble pillar, his training from the Fight Club sharp. And the crowd scatters, glasses shattering, but Warren's men close in, their boots echoing, and Isaiah, blood trickling from his lip, braces for the end when the gala's doors burst open, protesters flooding in, their signs raised, their voices a tidal wave inspired by the live stream, their numbers overwhelming the guards, and Isaiah, dodging a baton, grabs Warren's phone, its screen showing Claire's texts, proof of her role in the video, and he uploads them to the feed, exposing her as Warren's accomplice. Her career now ash, and the protesters shield Isaiah, their chants drowning the chaos, and police, pressured by the broadcast, storm in, cuffing Warren, his face a mask of rage, and Claire, hiding in the crowd, is spotted, her screams shrill as she's dragged away, and Isaiah, his tuxedo torn, collapses against a wall, the protesters chanting his name, their fists raised, and Kayla, safe in the hospital, Lena still, jailed, flicker in his mind, and the city's lights outside, once a cage, now pulse with possibility, and the feed, viewed by millions, trends globally, Apex's stock crashing, investors fleeing, and Isaiah, his breath ragged, feels a fleeting victory. Warren's empire crumbling, Claire's lies exposed, but the cuffs on Warren's wrists feel too easy, the protesters' cheers too bright, and he clutches the phone, its battery low, knowing Lena's fate, Kayla's scars, and the note's threat. Your friends are next, still linger, and Zoe's voice crackles through the earpiece, warning of Warren's allies, their reach deep, and Isaiah, his body screaming, his heart heavy, scans the crowd, their faces a mix of hope and fury, and he wonders if this showdown, this confession, is the end, or if Warren's machine has one more trap, one more lie to bury him, and the gala's shattered opulence, its broken glass glinting, mirrors his fragile triumph, because he's won the battle, but the war, he knows, is far from over. And with Lena in chains, Kayla healing, and Warren's glare burning into him, Isaiah braces for the storm's next wave, his defiance a flame no empire can extinguish. Ready to face whatever comes, because surrender means losing the truth, and he's fought too hard, bled too much to let it die now. Isaiah Coleman stands amid the gala's wreckage, the protesters' chants fading. Warren Drexler's cuffed wrists and Claire Hensley's arrest a hard-won victory, the live-streamed confession still trending, millions cheering his name. But the weight of Lena's imprisonment and Kayla's fragile recovery presses heavy, and Zoe's warning about Warren's allies, their tendrils deep in Seattle's power structure, gnaws at his gut, and he slips back to the safe house, the loft's monitors dim. Zoe's hackers scrambling to secure the confession's backups, but Isaiah's hope, so briefly ignited, flickers as news breaks. A federal judge, bankrolled by Apex's shadow funds, declares the confession inadmissible, citing chain of custody violations, and the footage vanishes from servers, erased by Warren's DOJ allies, their cyber attacks surgical, leaving only fragments of Isaiah's triumph. And Warren, his smirk untouched, walks free, his release announced on every channel, anchors praising his resilience, while Claire, freed, on a technicality, her eyes blazing with vengeance, slinks into Seattle's underbelly, her phone buzzing with Warren's orders, and she leaks the safe house's location to his mercenaries, a crew of ex-military brutes, their rifles oiled, their loyalty bought, and Isaiah, in the loft, his tuxedo swapped for a worn jacket, feels the air shift, a creak on the fire escape too deliberate, and Zoe's monitors flash red, security feeds showing shadows circling the building, and before he can react, the windows shatter, flashbangs, exploding, the loft filling with acrid smoke, and mercenaries storm in, their boots pounding, flames licking the walls as they torch the safe house, and Isaiah grabs Zoe, her arm bleeding from shrapnel, pulling her through a hidden trapdoor, the wooden stairs groaning under their weight, and they stumble into an alley, the fire's heat chasing them. But Zoe collapses, her breath shallow, her face pale, and Isaiah, his heart racing, carries her to a nearby clinic, its neon sign flickering, leaving her with a nurse who nods silently, and he flees. The city's sirens a chorus of pursuit, knowing the safe house's loss is more than bricks. It's Zoe's network, their last bastion, and he learns from a burner phone that Kayla and Lena, released under witness protection, are relocated to a secret safe house. But Warren's hackers, burrowing through federal databases, crack their location, sending assassins to a rural cabin, its pine walls no match for their firepower, and Isaiah, hiding in a derelict warehouse, its air thick with dust, receives Zoe's frantic text, warning of the breach, and his chest caves, his family hunted again, the note from the alley. Your friends are next. Now a litany of losses, Malik's sacrifice, Priya's screams, Zoe's blood, and he's alone, the city's skyline a jagged betrayal. But a stranger emerges from the warehouse's shadows, a woman named Amara, her eyes sharp, her voice steady, revealing a resistance network, coders, activists, ex-cops, all fighting Apex's corruption, and she hands him an encrypted drive. It's data detailing Warren's plan to rig Seattle's elections, ensuring his allies' control, and Isaiah, his hands trembling, joins them, vowing to rebuild, to protect his family. But Warren, in his estate, his monitors showing the safe house's ashes escalates his taunt, erecting a billboard over Horizon's ruins, its neon letters blazing, "You lose." And Isaiah, in the warehouse, its walls scrawled with resistance plans, feels the sting, his company gone, his family hunted, his name a curse, and Amara's network, though fierce, is outnumbered, their resources thin, and he clutches the drive. Its weight a promise, but the cabin's fate looms, Kayla's scars, Lena's courage, and he knows Warren's assassins are closing in, their blades sharpened, and the city's pulse, once his stage, now beats with Warren's rhythm. And Isaiah, his breath ragged, his body scarred, thinks of the gala's fleeting cheers, the confession's lost echo, and wonders if Amara's network can outmaneuver Warren's machine, if he can save his family before the next strike. And the warehouse's flickering bulb casts his shadow, a lone figure against an empire, and he vows to fight, to expose the election plot, to rise. But Warren's billboard, its glow mocking, promises a war without end, and Isaiah, his defiance a spark in the dark, braces for the assassin's footsteps, the resistance's gamble, and a city that's turned its back, because surrender means losing Lena's strength, Kayla's hope, and the truth he's bled for, and he's not ready to let Warren's lies bury him, even as the warehouse's silence whispers of a reckoning he can't escape. Isaiah Coleman stands in the derelict warehouse, the encrypted drive in his hand a pulse of possibility, Amara's resistance network buzzing around him, their laptops casting a faint glow on the scrawled plans covering the walls. But the sting of the safe house's ashes, Zoe's injury, and Warren Drexler's billboard taunting "You lose" over Horizon's ruins burns deep. And with Kayla and Lena hunted in witness protection, their rural cabin compromised by Warren's assassins, Isaiah's world feels like a tightening noose. Yet Amara's fierce gaze and the drive's data, exposing Warren's election rigging plot, ignite a spark, and he rallies the network, coders, activists, and whistleblowers working in sync, launching a nationwide cyber protest, their servers flooding social media with evidence of Warren's DOJ allies, judges and senators tied to the Liberty Front's racist agenda, each leak a grenade. Hashtags like Expose Apex and Justice Now trending globally, and Seattle's streets swell with marchers, their voices a tidal wave, shutting down highways, their signs demanding truth. And the FBI, cornered by global outrage, raids Apex's allies, their offices stripped bare, and Warren, in his estate, his monitors dark, feels the walls close in, his empire unraveling, and Claire Hensley, her vengeance now a liability, scrambles to flee, her suitcase stuffed with cash. But federal agents, spurred by the cyber protests' pressure, rearrest them both, Warren's, cuffs clicking in his marble foyer, Claire's screams echoing as she's dragged from a dingy motel, and Isaiah in the warehouse watches the arrests on a cracked tablet, his breath catching, the city's pulse shifting. But Amara hands him a new drive, delivered by a hooded figure, revealed as Malik's sister, Naya, her eyes haunted, her voice steady, and the drive unveils a national racist cabal, a network of power brokers using Warren as a pawn, their manifesto a blueprint for systemic oppression, and Isaiah's blood runs cold, realizing Warren was a cog, not the machine, and the cabal's reach from DC to Silicon Valley dwarfs Apex's crimes, and with Lena and Kayla safe, their witness protection secured, Isaiah channels his fire into a final act, unveiling a digital platform, Horizon Reborn, empowering marginalized entrepreneurs, its launch streamed to billions, the interface sleek, its mission a beacon, and Seattle's skyline, once a cage, glows behind him as he speaks, his voice raw but unyielding, honoring Malik's sacrifice, Priya's courage, Zoe's fight, Lena's strength, Kayla's survival, and the platform trends, startups flooding its servers, investors pledging billions, and Isaiah, his scars hidden under a crisp shirt, feels a fleeting triumph. The city chanting his name, Warren's billboard dark, but Nia's drive, its data a labyrinth, hints at the cabal's next move, a shadow watching Isaiah, their coded messages warning of retaliation, and he clutches the drive, its weight a new war. And Amara's network, now global, gears up, their resolve a mirror of his own, and the note from the alley, "Your friends are next," now carries every loss, but also every fight. And Isaiah, in the warehouse, its air alive with plans, thinks of Lena's bedtime stories, Kayla's faint smile, and vows to rise, to face the cabal, to protect his platform because surrender means letting hate win, and he's not built to break. And the city's lights, flickering through the warehouse's broken windows, pulse with hope. But the drive's final file, a cryptic name, Eclipse, chills his spine, a hint of a larger enemy, their shadow stretching beyond Warren, beyond Seattle, and Isaiah, his defiance aflame, braces for the fight, his platform a shield, his network a sword, ready to battle a machine that feeds on silence, because the truth, his truth, is a fire no cabal can extinguish, and as he steps into the night, the stars above a map of battles to come, he knows this victory, this platform, this moment, is only the beginning, and the cabal's whisper, their watching eyes, promise a war he can't yet see, but one he'll never stop fighting. Isaiah Coleman's journey in this gripping tale of racism stories reveals profound lessons about resilience and systemic injustice. First, it underscores the power of perseverance. Despite relentless racial discrimination, from Claire's initial bigotry to Warren's orchestrated attacks, Isaiah never surrendered, teaching us that inner strength can defy even the most oppressive systems. His fight against a racist cabal shows that one voice, amplified by truth, can spark change. Second, the story highlights the insidious nature of systemic racism. Warren's manipulation of media, law, and power exposes how deeply prejudice is woven into societal structures, urging us to question narratives and seek truth. Third, community matters. Isaiah's alliance with Zoe, Malik, and Amara's resistance network proves that collective action can challenge corruption, reminding us to support those fighting injustice. Fourth, sacrifice fuels progress. Malik's death and Zoe's injury reflect the heavy cost of resistance, yet their courage fueled Isaiah's platform, Horizon Reborn, a beacon for marginalized voices. Finally, the cabal's shadow warns that victories are fragile. Vigilance is essential to sustain justice. This racism story challenges us to confront bias in our own lives, amplify silenced voices, and build equitable systems. Isaiah's defiance inspires us to rise, no matter the odds. What racism stories have you encountered that demand action? Drop a comment, hit like, subscribe, and share to spread this message of justice. Thank you for joining Isaiah's fight. May you find strength to challenge injustice daily.